That mean we're live? We're live. It says live in the corner. Hi, Mike.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to California Free Radio. We're doing our thing tonight on Restream. So, everybody out there, bad news is we might look a little clearer. Good news is we should sound a little better. And anybody who wants to join the stream or your comments on X at NetterMike and at TaxFighter7, I believe, Sarah Scott, and my LinkedIn and Facebook, we will see your comments, including our Rebuild California groups. As always, I'm accompanied by Scott Piotr, Kurt English, and gentlemen, I'm going to start off tonight with some very disappointing news. My dream, what I have hoped for my whole life of becoming a pro athlete, indeed being able to, I was still thinking at my tender age, guys, that I'd be able to make it in women's pro sports, but apparently Trump shattered that dream today when he signed the bill that is not going to allow men to participate in women's sports. Now, I would say 99% of the country.
Hello?
Scott, jump in.
Hey, California, because we've been dealing with it in our local school district here in Irvine, there's a state law that requires the school districts to allow the boys to play on the girls' teams, to allow the boys to access all the girls' facilities, locker rooms, bathrooms, everything. Now, if you have a daughter at the school, you can opt your daughter out and say, hey, when there's a boy in there, I don't want my daughter in the girls' locker room. Provide another facility. And the school has to provide another facility. But here, these school districts now are going to have a choice. Are they going to obey the California law or are they going to obey Trump's executive order? So he issued this thing, this afternoon, this morning? So that means it's probably already in court by the liberals, right? Bonta has already sued Trump over this, saying you can't do this. Did we time it to see when they were going to file those court docs? It just hasn't hit the news yet.
Well, Scott, I think in 16 days they've already introduced impeachment articles for Trump in the House, the Democrats.
Well, forget all that. They're going to do that no matter what. And by the way, that's been done about in every president. Just the liberal press decides to push out even more. The interesting part, Scott, when we started to talk about this before you went on the air, is Trump has something called federal funding. And federal funding means that if indeed those school systems want to obey the state of California, they'll be doing it without federal funding. And for those of you out there, because I happened to look it up this week, the state of California, which by the way we'll get to later in the show, gets over something like 150 billion a year from the federal government. So if they would like to not have that 150 billion a year, and I know many of you out there going, we can make it as a country. The answer is no, we can't. We can't make it without the money that Trump and the federal government sends us, which means, I hate to break it to everybody out there, California, including Rob Bonta, and we'll get back to Rob in 1 second, has to play by federal rules. Scott, Kurt, weigh in.
Problem is that California is going to sue Trump for everything he does just to slow the process down. But the good news is that the legislature, in the special session, I guess, adjourned it without passing the $15 million or whatever dollars to Trump proof, because they want money for LA fire relief, and Trump told them to shove it. If they were going to,
they actually passed it, but that's okay.
Oh, you're
because
saying
it's interesting. Newsom hasn't signed it yet because, oddly enough, and this is the bizarre part of California, we'll get into this beginning of the show. I do want to share this with the Facebook groups here really quick here. So and we could use all the help that we could use tonight, sharing in Facebook groups for Rebuild California for our audience out there. But the funny part is, why California is trying to pass $50 million to protect even illegal aliens from being deported by the federal government Gavin Newsom can't sign it today, Kirk, because you know
He's in
where he
Washington,
is?
D.C. begging for money.
He's got a hat in hand. How many of you think it's this hat?
Trump probably said, put this
Because
leash
he
on
has
and
to
wear the
know it.
hat, Gavin.
And by the way, we now can see whoever's saying 45 equals 47, we can see your comments with this new technology on X. So weigh in and give us your thoughts on that, whether you're on Facebook, my LinkedIn channel, or on X. We can see you.
So wait a second.
And
So
I know
here,
that's you, Dan.
Newsom
The
calls a
rest of
special session just to implement his Trump-proofing plan. He allocates $50 million. The legislature votes or was going to vote last week on it, and the Republicans said, wait a minute. We want to pull out the funding of lawsuits for illegal aliens to try and keep them in the country and keep their citizenship and everything else. And they said, oh, no, we don't want to break that out and vote separate. And so they postponed the vote till yesterday, and they voted it in yesterday, including all of those items, right? So 50 million, including 25 million, specifically allocated for free legal services for illegals, including illegal criminals. So the irony would be that it gets to Newsom's desk. And by the way, that was a partisan vote. Every single Democrat voted for it. Republicans actually held firm, actually did a good job of staying together and providing an opposition voice for the first time in I think years, a united voice there. So that was good on the Republican side. So it gets to Newsom's desk. What's he going to do? Not sign it because he wants fire relief money? And he called the stupid special session and embarrassed all of his fellow Democrats into voting for legal funding of illegal aliens. I mean, he's kind of in a quandary. Do I want the money bad, or do I want to do what I want to do?
Well, today Pam Bondi
Well,
said
Trump,
that the DOJ is going to stop federal funding for all sanctuary cities and states. So he just
No
lost
matter
all
what
the
the
money.
money. So
He just
what?
lost all the money.
Transportation, everything just gone.
Gone. No federal funding.
well, I think what's interesting about this is what Donald Trump has done in literally 2 weeks is put many issues in California in play that normally you wouldn't consider to be federal issues. But the reality is, for everybody out there, in case you weren't paying attention at home, the California government, so I want everybody understands, Newsom has about a $310 billion state budget this year. However, the real California budget in total is almost 400 and some odd billion, because there's about 150 billion which flows into the federal government. The President of the United States certainly has the right, in most cases, to withhold funding if that particular state doesn't go along with it. For example, why California cannot break off as a state and not do certain things. So to answer the initial question, indeed, Rob Bonta can say, oh, you have to let boys play in girls' sports. And indeed he can at the so-called CIF level. But the federal government can say, hey, we don't have to give you the federal money for those districts which comply. And I hate to break
it. That's the high school level you're talking about.
at the high school level. And this, oddly enough, to follow the news here, and Kurt will look at your headlines in a second, is the same time why this argument is going on one hand. The teachers' unions of California, the CTA, are uniting amongst 50 of the largest districts. And you know what they're demanding? See if you can guess, Scott and Kurt.
More money.
Shocking. Yes, indeed, they want more money because they're underpaid because California is so high priced. And they want more money for the classrooms and for their salaries. Well, I hate to break it.
I think you have the order backwards. It's for their salaries, and if there's any left over, maybe for the classroom.
True, but either way, none of it goes to the students, and
Well,
we
Mike,
have
let me give you a little insight on this. My mother was a teacher in LA City schools for 41 years.
mine was at San Diego Unified.
And so she was part of the time where the union came from the United Teachers of Los Angeles and then was absorbed by the larger union. And they went from a professional organization to a bunch of blue collar union thugs. And you may recall one of the union, I'm going to say officials, that would be a nice way of referring to her, sitting in a hearing of the legislature many years ago saying, the unions put you here and we can take you out too. And the problem is in California, the teachers' unions control the Democrat Party.
I think you
True,
said
but the
that wrong.
challenge they're having right
Hey,
now.
we can take you out. We put you in.
That was it.
The interesting part is what we have right now, and this is another reason one of the initiatives we'll be talking about later on. We'll have the proponent on, not tonight, the CEO Act or school choice, and why Trump is pushing school choice from the federal level. Is the teachers' unions are running out of rope. I believe it was Santa Ana that just laid off 123 teachers. San Francisco and San Jose Unified are laying off because school attendance is down. Not only is school attendance down, people with young kids, it's getting harder to live in this state because they're spiraling the cost up. And Newsom and his cronies have driven the cost of inflation up, where people say, we're just going to move or we're going to homeschool. And the school system isn't working. The teachers, and Kurt, I want to go a little bit deeper with you on this subject here, are kind of cannibalizing their own jobs, because what also didn't used to be part of when my mom was a teacher at San Diego Unified, or your teacher, is that the teachers were a union called the CTA. They now encompass these same unions, many of the administrators. And back in the day, way back in the day, when we were taught with stone tablets, the teachers were separate from the administrators. There was about 1.5 people that weren't in the classroom to people that were in the classroom. Today, because of this infrastructure growing around it, it's about what, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, something like that. The
They
administrators
have
outnumber
teachers'
the
aides,
teacher.
and it's same in colleges. There's way more bureaucrats sucking off the system
Right.
than there were, 40, 50 years ago.
And they become part of the unions. And the problem has become that now they're having to lay off. When we talk laying off people, they're not all teachers, but it's become simply this bureaucratic mess where no longer is it
All right.
the main
Well, you made an important
education.
point, Mike. Why is enrollment going down? When the Department of Education was created by Jimmy Carter in 1979, the U.S. was ranked number 1 in academics in the civilized world. Now we're number 22 with a corrupt Department of Education that Trump is probably going to nuke.
And
But-
California is like the 49th of that.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah,
Well,
by
look
the
what's
way, we're
happening
number
to the
49
students.
out of rank number
Mike's right. They're
22.
moving out. But if you look at the homeschooling in the United States, more homeschooling this year than any time in the last 100 years. People have lost confidence in the public school systems because they're trying to castrate your kids and teach them to hate America and reject the parents' values. My message to parents and grandparents is get your kids and your grandkids out of public schools. Get them out. And even 94% of the Christian schools are using public school textbooks. Classical Christian schools, homeschool, there's homeschool cooperatives. The school system is failing and people are voting with their feet.
Okay, so
We're going to spend a whole
I was just saying, I'm going to jump back to the original a little bit here. I want to start a pool. How long do you think it'll be before Bonta finds a sympathetic federal judge that will put this executive order on hold until it's resolved, and the money has to flow because the judge says it has to flow. So they'll shop a judge.
No, what if
Find the
Trump says, I'm
I
sorry, the
think
judge's
it's gonna,
ruling is unconstitutional. I control the executive branch.
ho-
We're
ho-
not paying it. See you in the Supreme Court.
hold on. I think actually this one's a little bit different because frankly, it's rather fascinating to me that Trump, I get it, he's trying to overturn our interpretation of the 14th Amendment, and that went on hold. Pretty much in the last 2 weeks, you haven't heard many emergency injunctions. Now, the federal government, and this is a great point for discussion tonight, Scott, because is it Title IX was originally started to prevent, you know, so women could have separate sports. That was the whole idea of Title IX to
give
begin
them
with.
more equality.
That is
right.
a give them more equality, right? And Ted Cruz actually, it was interesting. Ted Cruz had a great comment where one of the liberals testifying in front of Commerce, he goes, I'm confused. If there's no women and no men, then why do we have Title IX? And she's like, or it was, you know, like, it's like, then what the hell is the point, right? So Trump does have the ability to enforce Title IX, which Biden was getting the opposite because they're filing against Biden. These other states going, dude, it says separate sports for women, you must give separate funding. I think it's going to be quite a challenge for Bonta running upstream to find a federal judge because it'll have to go all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, to me, in my opinion, and Kurt's lawyer, is going to have a very difficult time with it. And let's take a step back, take an entire step back on this. It's in spite of the mainstream press and as much publicity as it gets, how many, how do I say this politely? How many individuals with male genitals really want to play in women's sports? Hold on, I get it. There's probably more than I think.
Just a bunch of sissies
But
that I don't respect.
you can't tell me 99% of the public doesn't agree. I have a daughter who's older now. Nobody wants, well, certainly no one wants their daughter playing against males, wants their locker rooms mixed. It's a pretty small proportion of people, wouldn't you say, guys?
Well, I don't know. You got the horny high school boys that want to be in the girls' locker room, and they're willing to do anything, regardless as to the sport.
That's
No,
why I did
don't
try
think they're
that.
willing to put on a dress and go to school. I just don't see it.
Well, now you're kind of backing up into the morals of the individual students, in spite of all the efforts of the school to grind them down to have no morals. You're right. There are some boundaries that some guys won't cross. But as you've seen with the whole trans hysteria, not only are they, I mean, they're manufacturing trans students out of nowhere, and they've been going skyrocketing as far as the number of trans kids compared to what it was just 5 years ago.
Well, that's manipulation by
Again,
abusive adults.
right. And
Grooming.
let's
It's all
again,
grooming.
let's take a step back, okay? I get it. It gets a lot of attention because the left press has chosen to give a lot of attention. Again, statistically, for everybody out there, and they talk about, oh my God, there's about 1.7 million people, 1.5 of all age groups in the United States that consider to be trans. Not a lot out of a population of 340 million or so, okay? This has always existed, that percentage, for a very long time. And if people, when they're 18, want to do it, it's up to them. Period. End of sentence. That number has gone up a little bit because of grooming, etc. 100%. But it is still a fraction of what the majority of people think. I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, young, old. Most people.
So you're wondering if Newsom's going to go to the wall on this issue because it's only going to affect a handful of people. And if he
Correct.
loses federal funds, look, even when I was on the city council in Newport Beach, we didn't accept federal funds except we had CDBG funds, community development block grants. And the feds use that to kind of spread around the wealth and to get their way on things. Now, we as a city decided we're not going to take any federal money for any cause except for federal requirements. And so since the feds were requiring us to upgrade our systems for ADA for the handicap, we figured, okay, it's a
Right.
federal mandate, we'll use federal funds for that. But we didn't use it for other things in the city. But in the city of Newport Beach, like a lot of cities around here, would gladly walk away from their CDBG funds if it meant that girls were protected. Most cities would, but I can't believe.
But you also have a school district, and you as a more richer school district, I'll go ahead and say that, used less federal funds.
Well,
For instance,
wait a minute. I got to
Fresno,
call a
for example.
timeout on you, Mike. There. Remember, after the Serrano decision, all the property tax money goes to Sacramento, and it's distributed on a per student basis.
No. You're confusing property tax state funds with federal funds.
Okay, federal funds are
Going
different.
back
That's
to what
correct.
Scott just said. Federal funds are allocated across California for a poor district like, I'll pick on Fresno, nobody from Fresno shoot me. They might get 23 or 24% of their school district monies being
So it'll be
federal.
higher.
Now, Newport Beach,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, higher.
Right. Newport Beach, you have higher property values, okay? So you may only get 6 or 7% of your school funding from the feds. But hold on, that's still 6 or 7%, and you don't want to lose those funds, okay? And not to mention the fact there's these things called freeways and highways which need to be maintained.
Well, I'm just shocked that the number that you pulled out, 150 billion and we have $300 billion budget, and on top of that we have 150 billion. In effect, a third of our California budget is paid for by the feds. What the heck?
Yeah, we pay. No. The system of budgeting, and I don't want to. We could do a whole show. It's this: when California proposes a budget, that's with California money.
No, I totally understand that, but I can't believe that that the feds are giving California $150 billion a year. No wonder we can afford to do all this crap, because we're not paying for our own roads. We're having the feds pay for our roads. And so,
let's talk about something else. Kevin Kiley was talking about that tonight, and God bless Kevin Kiley for standing up. Let me give you a prime example. Congressman Kevin Kiley. Let's give a prime example of something California is using for transportation, federal money, that isn't transporting anybody.
Wait a minute, can I guess? The train to nowhere. But it's a high-speed train to nowhere. No tracks, no trains, but we have a high-speed whatever. Okay, is that what you're talking about?
Let's be fair. It moves as fast as you can think, because Newsom thinks it's going to run.
Well, wait a minute, Mike.
So
didn't Trump issue an executive order banning federal funding for the train to nowhere?
Yeah,
not yet.
But he is asking for an audit of it, though.
Right. Now we're going to go out. That is an important subject to dive into tonight, gentlemen. But before I get there, let me explain something. So right now, Joe Biden, let me rephrase that. The people around Joe Biden had Joe Biden allegedly sign a piece of paper that dumped about another 10 billion or so the last few years, so Newsom could keep awarding contracts to his cronies to build this train, which is, by the way, for everybody out there, I forget the figure we've spent. We've laid no track. We've purchased no cars. And by the time we're done with this, it go from a city you don't want to start off to a city you don't want to end up in. It's about 33 miles. And
it was originally going to be like $23 billion and go from Southern California, from LA to San Francisco. And now it's $230 billion, and it goes from Bakersfield to Fresno, theoretically. Actually,
No. That's the towns you remember. Thomas Buckley is a friend of mine, writes for the Globe sometimes. He wrote a great article on it this week that basically he's right, that you don't even know the towns that it's running to. It's kind of near Bakersfield and it's kind of near Fresno, but they kind of started laying the track, but they kind of haven't. But they've sure spent a lot of money on it. This is actually a critically important point, in my opinion, leads to something that broke in the news this morning. Congress highly has proposed to say we are not going to give any more federal funding to the train which doesn't run. That's the kind of things I'm talking about, Scott. We get money dumped in from all kinds of programs that are layered on top of the California budget.
Yeah, but
Donald Trump,
our highway repair. I mean, how much highway funds do we get in that 150 billion? My guess is it's significant.
Everything is a chunk because California is supposed to start to work. But hold on one second. The problem we have that the federal government is exposing with the U.S. aid thing, and now they're looking at a California. And for everybody, I want you to mark my words when I'm telling you tonight, is that just as Newsom came out infamous for California about a year ago and said, hey, we spent $24 billion on homeless, we have no idea where the money went. Donald Trump, along with Elon Musk, is demanding accountability. And Elon's guest is going right to the buildings, Elizabeth Warren, taking over and looking where our money went. God forbid. She was very pumped up about that today. Asking California, along with Kylie, for an accountability of where this federal money is going.
Or where
this leads to to a very important story today. The news came out today that Rob Bonta, the Attorney General that you referred to, Kurt, who wants to sue Gavin Newsom and hold stuff up at court and find a judge. Trump. Right. He's not going to run for governor. I know that breaks a lot of hearts out there in 2026.
I was hoping that he would run.
Okay. Now, it also came out that he has a number of past scandals on him and number of past investigations having a lot to do with Oakland and other people who he's investigating, etc. And I think you're going to lead. By the way, did Newsom change his name, Scott? To Scott Piotr? Looks like you've named Newsom Scott Piotr in the corner there. I'm just
That's better.
Yeah, there you go. That's much better. I thought maybe he was going to fool us all. So I think it's important to note, and I want to give you two guys who are my age bandwidth. Do you remember the old movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
Why did we rob the banks? Because that's where the money is.
Well, remember who are those guys?
Paul Newman and Robert Redford.
No. They kept saying, "Who are those guys?"
Who are those guys?
The posse chasing them today is Trump and Elon Musk. And those guys running, mark my words, are Gavin Newsom and Rob Bonta. And there's a meme out there, some just start thinking that we're going to change from those two. All right, let's try something new, Dan, the producer, and see if we can bring Magdalena in through Restream. Magdalena, can you talk? I may have to call her.
Can she talk? Yeah. Can we hear her? That's the question.
Yeah, I think she's on the phone library.
So just because you asked for it, here's our cheesy Attorney General here behind me, Rob Bonta. His smile is absolutely every bit as fake as you see it in this photo. Yeah, the guy's got zero intellect, and he's just a pure propagandist politician, and doesn't do any. He's kind of like Kamala
Yeah.
Harris.
Hey, Magdalena. Hold on. We're gonna bring you in 1 second. I hear you're in a library in San Francisco. Give us the San
Yeah.
Francisco report.
Yeah.
It's kind of
No, I can talk now.
okay. Can you talk through the restream? Does it work or not?
It works. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Well, you can hear me on my phone. We wanted to see if we get you talking on our new technology tonight.
Yeah, because I can't. I'm on the computer. I can hear the phone.
Okay.
So kill the phone and see what happens.
All right. We're killing the phone and see if we can hear you. Talk now, Magdalena. Her mic's not connected. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Okay, Mike, does it work?
Much
You could say something through the mic and see if it works.
Hi, everybody.
All right. Well, we can hear you now. Magdalena, real quick, because we're going to have to figure out a better way to put you on. We know Bonta is not running for governor. We just announced that. Your mic is not connected to Restream, but give us a quick thing. San Francisco, is it pouring cats and dogs, or what's going on up there? And what's the reaction from the community up there to to Trump's ruling today?
I don't know. Gavin is trying everything he can to do everything against what Trump wants to do. It's just, he just wants to do whatever he wants to. He doesn't care about Trump or what he decides.
We really cannot hear what he's saying.
Magdalena, this isn't working. We can't hear you through it. So we're going to have to try you again next week. We're going to do a practice session with you, okay?
Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, back to this. Yes, as our producer told us, Bonta is not running for governor. I was interested in getting Magdalena's take on what, it's funny. San Francisco, which is why I like having her call in, guys, is changing a lot. They actually elected kind of a middle of the road Democrat for mayor in terms of Lori. They're actually, the rich San Franciscos want to get the crap off the streets. That's not a metaphor.
Literally.
Yes, literally. And they're starting to go, I don't know about this, as California, quote, slowly turns red. It's interesting because Bonta isn't running for governor because he's saying he's going to support, he's supporting running for governor, right?
No.
Oh, he announced today.
Oh, Kamala Harris, our buddy, our friend.
My opinion.
She's not dead yet. I mean, politically speaking.
Well,
no name in her coffin. Come on.
I think Bonta is hoping to get a job as a rich lawyer. I want you to again seriously mark my words today. With everything that's been going on in plain sight, with huge amounts of money, I can't stress enough how much $1 billion is. I mean, you to understand that California churned through 24 billion unchecked for homelessness, that the federal government has basically pumps about 150 billion into California each year unchecked. You have to understand that the fraud participation, even down to the lower levels, is going to be huge just by default, gentlemen. And I think guys like Bonta, who have been fingers right around, I'm going to be putting out something soon about where Newsom has been getting money in the last 20 years, how the unions are incestuous, like we talked about earlier today. It's tens of millions that we just see. And if you don't think these guys want to get out of Dodge or, quote, hide the paraphernalia before Daddy Trump comes home, let's go back to high school days. So let
me ask you a question. Bonta is the attorney general. So he supports Kamala Harris. What does he want? He wants a job in her administration. He's already got a constitutional office. Although I think he's termed out, isn't he? He's termed out next time. He can't run again.
No, he can run again.
So Why would he give up the attorney general position to work in Kamala Harris administration?
Well, let me try another angle for you.
Or is he just got so many things are going after him on the feds? He's trying to stop the investigation.
So many things are going after him on the feds. He'll run for one more term as attorney general. But let's just say, I don't know what he makes, but somebody can look it up. It's probably 186,000 a year or so. Okay. Now let's go to what normally was called the first partner. And no, I'm not talking about Jennifer. Let's look at Doug Enoff.
A Los Angeles lawyer.
Look him up really quick. Everybody out there, look him up.
You're saying Kamala's going to divorce him and marry?
Oh,
Biden?
no. Oh, God, no. He just took a job. I don't think Trump had taken the oath of office, for Doug had taken a really high profile attorney job with a really
So he parlays his first, or he parlays his second husband status and name ID into a well-paying gig once he's gone.
even
So-
bigger one than he had before. Now,
Bonds is going to walk into a gig like that. That's what he's aiming for.
that would be my guess. What? Look. Doug Enoff has his own corruption in the past, and he was a big fluting attorney before, and blah, 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 blah.
Are you predicting that Bonds is not going to run for AG next time?
No, he'll run for AG, but he'll magically resign to do something else when the corruption gets close, a la Cuomo in New York, okay, a lot of these guys getting out right before the posse hits the door. Because if you really study the Bonta scandals, which go way back, he's been living under fairly friendly fire, and frankly, so has Gavin Newsom. We have these no-bid contracts I talked about with Gavin. We have the one, if you look at Bonta right now, where he moved $500,000 from his campaign fund into his wife's charity. I haven't even gotten to what Mia Bonta's done yet. We have the mayor of
Is that
Oakland.
legal?
She's an assembly,
No, it's not.
but
He's the
Democrat.
attorney general, and he's illegally moving campaign money.
No, he did it as an assembly person.
It's just now catching up with him.
Yes.
Who's
I mean,
investigating FPPC? Well, there's a conflict of interest. Are the feds investigating him, or is that what he's afraid of?
No, it's been investigated before. Newsom just got fined $100,000 for filing the wrong forms out of like the 25 million he has in the bank. And the judge, Newsom's like, what do you like? I'm the governor. You can't do this. And the judge, who was a Democratic judge, even said, like, dude, it's like, you got enough people around you. You should know how to file these forms. So Newsom paid up $100,000, which is kind of like me tipping the barista at Starbucks. Let's be honest, I don't go to Starbucks too. I don't tip the barista. But if I did, it would be about $1. He paid his, and this barely made headlines. So Newsom, Bonta, and many of these Democrats violate the campaign laws because they can get away with it. The PAC money that Newsom started his PAC with came from the recall that Orrin and I started that got on the ballot. He shouldn't have been able to transfer that to a PAC, but he did because they have ways around it. I'm not saying it was illegal, but he found ways around it. That's not why even the rich people donated to that. Newsom and Bonta and the circle of people around them, it's kind of like we're not sure who, it's like a crime scene.
No, it's more like a crime family.
Yeah, but no. I mean, there's a lot of bodies lying around. And there are these two guys in the middle going, hey, you do have video of me? Do you have video of me shooting? Not yet. Hey, did you got any witnesses that saw me shoot these guys? Not yet, but there's sure a lot of bodies lying around. It sure looks suspicious. Now, everybody investigating to this point has not been exactly a neutral party. And here's what I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, short, tall, male or female, if you don't think that one party rule for 20 some odd years, 30 years, can be run this, let's just start since 2020 where the evidence mounts up, and that billions of dollars, almost $1 trillion, flows through California unchecked, and that money isn't taken off the top and illegally handled.
So that's what you're hoping that we're going to find out if Trump sits there and does an audit of, let's say, the Great Train hoax.
What I'm hoping is going to happen is people will start to go to jail. What we forget a lot of the time, Scott, when we talk about, remember my favorite game show in Los Angeles? The Price is Right. Curran Price, who's still serving, by the way, has got indicted on charges that he did illegal stuff, indicted, not yet convicted. Ridley Thomas, whatever the heck his first
Mark
name
Ridley
is.
Thomas, the city councilman.
Right, who was a supervisor. Remember, they got indicted for stuff they did almost a decade ago, now 13, 14 years ago. So it takes a while for the posse to come to town. So what I think you're going to see with Bonta, and remember, Newsom was a lieutenant governor for 8 years before he's been this run of 6 years as governor. You're going to start to see, as the posse comes to town, to uncover stuff that we kind of suspected was going on the whole time, but it's just catching up.
Okay.
Hey, the mayor of Oakland, who got recalled, she's actually up getting investigated for stuff she did 4 years ago as a city council person.
And even though she's off the council now.
Right. Oh, she's not even the mayor anymore. They recalled her.
Okay. So I'm going to change the subject on us now, if you guys are ready. We have California Democrats pointing the finger at who's to blame for these wildfires. Who's to blame? Who would you say these wise politicians leading this wonderful state of California is to blame for these fires? Obviously not them, but who? Rich people. Yeah, right. So what they normally blame is what? Climate change. Anything having to do with climate, anything like
Because
this.
you can't prove it and there's no evidence.
If it's a climate change hoax. But what did the legislature do over this issue? Mike knows the answer, I could tell.
Go ahead.
So they decided that big oil is responsible for climate change. And so they passed a law that allows individuals that have been impacted by these wildfires to be able to sue oil companies to blame them for the fire. So they can go
Scott,
after
let me jump in here. As the lawyer on the panel, as soon as some aggressive plaintiff does that with some ambulance chasing a lawyer, the counterclaims are going to, or the cross complaint against the DWP chick who's making $750,000 a year, who didn't fill the reservoirs for 11 months, including during last summer's fire season, and Newsom, and Bass, and the 3 Kristens from the LA Fire Department are all getting sued and brought into that too. Now, hold on, Mike. It's not a criminal case. Therefore, there's no way they can hide. There's no way they can avoid discovery. That is a really dumb thing they all just did, and they're going to be hoisted on their own petard.
Well, what's even dumber is Exxon is suing back, including not just suing as they normally do for a bad statute, but they're now suing California for unspecified financial damages.
Okay.
Yeah, but the problem is it's going to be a jury trial. Who is on juries? Union members that can get off work, retired people, government workers.
Kurt, hold that for 1 second. The precedent you're talking about, okay, and I'm going to assume Exxon can afford a lot of really good lawyers. Okay. And meaning that more than just suing, saying this is a bad law, they could say, they're saying basically, California, you've cost us a lot of damn money. And now you're trying to make us responsible for bunches of natural disasters. And we are going to sue you for slandering our good name. That let's just throw out a figure that it could be $1 trillion that they got awarded. I'm throwing out a figure in today's world, okay? And California will be on the hook for it.
But
At
when that
some
happens,
point,
what happens? The oil companies have more costs to give or to produce gas for us as motorists in California. The price goes up, or some of them decide, the hell with you, and they leave the state. And all of a sudden, we're not going to have it. Imagine if you shut down another one of our refineries, we'd be importing all of our gas. These
Well,
guys,
that's what they want. They
but I
want
want
to
to go. I
prevent
want to
us
go
from
to.
driving gas-powered cars because they're dictators.
But I want to go to another story here. A couple more stories about the Ivanpah solar power monstrosity. It is built right outside the California border, shared by Edison and PG&E. I text you folks that article.
oh yeah, this is the
today.
solar facility out in the Mojave Desert that has all of these mirrors that focus the sunlight on one point where they have steam generators to generate electricity.
Correct. Now,
That reminds me of that James
we
Bond
were-
movie where they had the mirror and they were trying to melt the place in the Arctic.
to be honest with you, it reminds me of something, a kit I would have bought out of the comic books in Popular Mechanics or something that I would have come home and my dad would have had me outside. Now, hold on. This has been going on for 10 years and cost something like, one of you guys could look it up, billions of
As
dollars.
Carl Sagan
okay?
would say, billions and
300
billions.
347,000 mirrors over 3,500 acres. PG&E and Pacific Gas and and Edison, who both sponsoring the project with government dollars, have never found a way to sell the electricity that it produces. And I'm going to get to my punchline.
Wait a
So you
minute.
guys got to bear
This
with.
solar plant produces more power than we can handle, and we can't.
No. It produces power at the wrong times. They can't transmit it. And they have something else they were very shocked to discover. The plant's been distraught with problems. I'm going to put this out right now on my X feed. I recommend everybody read the article in detail. Here's the funny part. The plant is so bad, it literally tried to commit suicide. Yes, indeed. The plant has set itself on fire a couple times because the mirrors pointing at each other overheated and have caused explosions in the plant. So it finally came up with them. I mean, literally, it's the first time in the history of engineering, and this is without AI, by the way. This is beyond James Bond. The plant has tried to kill itself. It has been such a bad idea.
Remember, artificial intelligence is no match for natural stupidity. And if we have a government program, there's going to be natural stupidity.
Which leads to a thing that the government does not talk about today, which I've talked about before, and I want to intertwine two other important subjects here. We talk about water a lot, and Trump has been smart enough to open the water flow.
In California, to Southern
Okay.
California.
Whoa, stop, hold on. Scott, you may have found, hold on. I want everybody right now to look behind Scott. This may be the first actual picture ever taken of Karen Bass without an idiotic grin on her face. I don't know that I've ever seen
Maybe
one
she
before.
got served with her first lawsuit for recklessness in the fire.
They literally, you see her at the airport. Would you like to answer? By the way, your city just burned.
This
I mean, you can Google this, everybody. You can. It's like she has this nervous twitch where she has to smile.
She is
all the
speechless.
time.
Yes.
Another Democrat that
Okay,
will
but
lie
anyway,
to your
let me-
face and smile at you at the same time.
And Scott, I mean, Kurt, those aren't hard to find.
Newsom is another one.
Um, but let's go back to a couple other things here where we've lost track of some of the basics. Trump releases power. And because the focus has been on fires lately, okay, for everybody out there, I'm going to go slow. You went to public school. Why we're constructing big things with mirrors costing billions of dollars. I do know that water puts out fire. You know what else water does for the
Unless you got
environment?
lithium batteries that are on fire, then it doesn't work.
But you know what? You want to produce a lot of clean energy? How about hydroelectric dams? They work pretty well.
Not if
And
there's,
they make
not if
big
there's no
things
water
swim.
behind them, and Newsom dismantles them, of which he's done.
That's a problem, isn't it? And what's wrong with that kind of clean energy? And by the way, everybody out there, there's a guy named Isaac Newton who named something today we call gravity. And when water runs downhill, Scott, you're the architect, Kurt, you study engineering. When water flows downhill and big things spin, it produces pretty clean electricity. Did I miss something there?
No, as a
You're
matter of fact,
assuming that Newsom wants us to have enough electricity.
Edison has gotten so sophisticated, they actually developed a system of reservoirs up in the Sierra Nevadas where they'll let the water down during the high peak hours and then use pumps and pump it back up into the reservoir during non-peak hours to even out their energy flow. So, they, in effect, is a giant battery, that kinetic energy that you're talking about. So, yeah,
Which is really all
clean.
right. So, what the heck is wrong with that? And where do we go so off base that we have to build a some odd billion project over 10 years in the middle of the desert with big expletive deletive mirrors, a project so bad that it wanted to commit suicide?
Not only is it committed suicide, first of all, it was done with so many subsidies. It was outrageously expensive. The feds and the state, everybody subsidized the construction of this stuff. And now Edison and PG&E are withdrawing from it, and they're looking at closing it down because it doesn't work.
Remember what Ronald Reagan said, very applicable to this problem. If government is the answer, the question must be stupid.
Let's go to another stupid question as we end the show that got announced this week. And that's for everybody out there. Now, for you rich liberals, we know about lithium batteries, and we don't need to go too deep there. But California, we talk a lot about them mandating electric car. No gas-powered car shall be sold new by 2035.
Didn't Trump issue an executive order to cancel that?
Hold on. Right now that takes he wrote an executive order to get the EPA to do it, but let's stick with me what's actually happening right now. So California, that's overall, says that okay, we have to have about 25% of all cars sold in 2028 in California have to be electric. We are dramatically short of that, and we're not going to make that. Now, many of you are going to go out there and going to go, who cares?
Can't just wave that magic wand and it'll happen in order to save the planet, of course.
Here's the problem. That means companies, like you may have heard, Ford, General Motors, etc., every gas-powered car that they sell will be subject to a $20,000 per vehicle tax.
Starting when?
It ramps up, and it's a bit complex. So GM and Ford, guess what? Probably won't be selling cars here. Now, they have an alternative to it because they can meet the percentage by selling less cars, which, of course, is going to make the cost of cars go up.
Yeah, people
So
will just
the
buy them in
reality
another
is,
state and drive them here.
Well, this is a whole other complex issue. But here's my point. It's, as Gavin Newsom yells at Elon Musk, the companies, with this, what the carb tax going up, Kurt, is all about, 50 cents a gallon. There is one company that has sold 100% electric cars in California and has a tremendous amount of credits. And you know who that company
I'm
is,
gonna
Kurt?
guess Tesla.
Winner! So Elon Musk is sitting on billions of dollars of credit thanks to Gavin Newsom. Hey, so as the press tries to go, well, Tesla sales are slightly down because electric cars are slightly down. Elon's going, dude, I'm cool in California. Thanks for the
Hey, Mike,
credits. So,
before we go,
Sell them to the oil companies for a lot of money.
before we go, I want to run some things by everybody we can talk about next week that you can think about so you can comment and call in. The University of California is accused of racial discrimination against Asian Americans and white students in a lawsuit. The
I'm
Democrats
shocked.
voted to give illegal aliens $25 million in legal costs to keep them from being deported. Hundreds of illegal aliens and their friends blocked the 101 freeway this weekend in downtown Los Angeles to protest against deporting illegal aliens. Some Californians, however, are unhappy with the pro illegal alien demonstrations, and I sent you guys a little set of banners that were hanging over a freeway overpass that you might post on. Then, acting on Trump's order, federal officials opened up 2 California dams. We just talked about that. In Pacific Palisades, Karen Bass is trying to claim that the rebuild must include a lot of low-income housing. I'm sure the residents are looking forward to that. The LA Times just released an article confirming that President Trump's orders are entirely responsible for the new water flow to California cities. A Chinese graduate student at UCLA who had been leading pro-Hamas rallies on campus has been arrested. Hit the road, you're gone. Green California admitting massive CO2. Wildfires were the biggest environmental disaster in years if you believe carbon dioxide's a problem. I don't. And those lithium batteries, when they burn up, you got all that stuff going into the land to clean up. And look at all the global warming in California. Wow, you had fires in La Jolla, Mission Valley, Rancho Bernardo that were started by homeless people living in camps. Oops.
Well, we kind of predicted that one, didn't we?
And then LA Mayor Bass is, instead of working on rebuilding, is working on protecting illegal aliens, of course.
And putting affordable housing back where the houses were.
So lot going on in Los Angeles and in California, guys. So if you're listening today, join us next week because there's a lot to talk about.
Indeed. And we're going to keep using this new platform and pushing it out. Remember, share the show. We're going to be doing a lot of new things. We've got some new stuff in order on the big horizon too in the next 3-4 weeks.
I want to see ICE show up at one of these pro illegal immigrant rallies or protests that shut down the freeways. Can you see it? We'll have LAPD on one side and ICE on the other side, and protesters in the middle. Where do you think the protesters are going to go? I bet they run to LAPD because it's a sanctuary city. They can't arrest them.
We just want to see law and order, and we'll probably do a whole.
I want to see arrests of the people that don't follow law and order, that break the law.
We will get there as we slowly move uphill. There were 2 arrests, and by the way, unreported from one of my insiders, 2 of the people of protests arrested had loaded firearms on them. So you didn't see that in the mainstream news.
Oh,
Scott, Kurt, got any final words?
Watch Kevin Kiley, congressman from California. He's on Twitter, X, and I'm sure at Netter Mike, you can find what some of the good things he's doing to stand up for common sense in California. Thank you, Kevin.
And watch the legislature. The state legislature, I think, has finally got a couple of renegades up there that are going to start standing up. And if they lose their committee assignments or whatever, tough crap, they're going to stand up against these Democrats.
One other very important thing. There's a special election for the state Senate seat in coastal Orange County, and Tony Strickland is the Republican running. I know Tony, good guy, and he will be one of those renegades to stand up to the craziness. Based on the ballots that are turned in Orange County, he's very close to getting 50% of the vote, based on who's taking ballots and returning.
Absolutely.
So it's very
So,
important
and
for
that again,
every Republican in coastal Orange County to vote for Tony Strickland so that he can win in the first round and not have to go to a runoff.
which is a perfect lead into what I'm talking about here. As we get more people in the state legislature, it's not only we're getting ones that are more active, but the active ones we have, like Shannon Grove, like Gallagher, and some of the others, can actually make a difference because we're bringing in more backup. And we want you to bring backup to us. Remember, it's your state. California Free Radio, keep our voice alive. Keep your voice alive. It's up to you, the people of California. Don't even depend on Washington doing something about it. Every week, you could do something. Follow our feeds and make a movement. There are some major announcements of petitions coming out within the next 30 days or so. God bless. Good night. We'll see you next